Today we're going to talk about a brand new topic, and that is polynomials. This is really where our Algebra 1 curriculum starts moving into more Algebra 2. What we start today, which we're going to look on for the rest of the year, is really going to be geared more towards Algebra 2 than Algebra 1. Now, that doesn't mean it's super hard. It just means it's brand new for a lot of students, and it can be a little bit more confusing as we go. But this is what we're doing the rest of the year, so it's very, very important. Today we're just going to do some background information, some vocabulary, some examples, just some basic understanding of this topic. Not really any actual problems worked out. It's called polynomials, so let's start talking about what those are. So first thing we're going to talk about is something called a monomial. That is pronounced a monomial. And what a monomial is, this definition is not going to sound very easy to you at first, but I'll give you some examples. Hopefully it becomes a little easier. A monomial is a number, a variable, or product of those with whole number exponents. The whole number exponents just means the exponents can't be decimals, they can't be negative numbers, they can't be fractions. The key with a monomial is monomials are basically anything that we have in math, and we've dealt with these a lot, we just haven't called them monomials. So it's a number, just a number like 4, a variable like x, or the product of those, product meaning multiplication. So when we take a number and a variable times each other, like 4x or 8 times x times y, which is 8xy. Here are some examples of monomials. 12 is a monomial, it's just a number. 5x is a monomial, it's 5 times x. 14x to the third, y to the 7th, because we're multiplying 14 times x times y. And 9x to the 5th, y cubed, or y to the third, z. When we multiply these three together, that makes a monomial. So these are monomials. We've called them terms in the past, and I'll use that word again throughout this chapter, but they're monomials. So it's just a variable, or a variable and a number multiplied by each other. The key with monomials is this next part. Every time you have to be able to figure out the degree. What is the degree of the monomial? And this is very, very important. How do we find this out? It's pretty easy. All you're going to do to find the degree is you take the sum of the exponents of the variables. Now, the word sum means add. Sum means addition. So what we're going to do to find the degree is we're going to add the exponents of the variables. So we're going to take all the exponents of the variables, and we're going to add them up. And whatever that total number is, that's the degree. So for example, let's look at these. 14x to the third, y to the 7th. So we're going to add the exponents of the variables. Well, we have 3 as an exponent, we have 7 as an exponent. So we're going to add those up. So 3 plus 7 is 10. So the degree of this monomial is 10. You just add up the exponents of the variables. Over here, we have x to the 5th, y to the 3rd, and z. Now, remember that the z actually has an imaginary 1 there. So we're going to add those numbers up. 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So the degree is 9. Because 5 plus 3 plus 1 is 9. You add the exponents of the variables. So in 5x, there's only one variable. Its exponent is 1. So the degree is 1. In the number 12, take the sum of the exponents of the variables. Now, in this monomial, the number 12, there are no variables. So the degree is 0. So if there are no variables, its degree is 0. If there is a variable without an exponent, there's an imaginary 1 there. So its degree is 1. And any other time, you just add them all up. 5 plus 3 plus 1 is 9. 3 plus 7 is 10. For the degree, the number in front, what we call the coefficient, does not matter. It has nothing to do with the degree. The only part of the degree that's important are the exponents of the variables. Okay? So those are monomials. It's very important to find the degree of a monomial. The next thing we're going to talk about is something called polynomial. It's called a polynomial. Now, what is a polynomial? A polynomial is a string of monomials that are added or subtracted together. We usually call them terms. So we've dealt with these before, but we call them terms. A polynomial is when you take a bunch of monomials and string them together. We string them together by either adding them or subtracting them together. And when we do that, they're called terms. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. 4x plus 9x to the second y minus 8 plus 3xy. This is a polynomial. This whole thing is called a polynomial. And what we've done is I have 1, 2, 3, 4 monomials or terms that are combined together. And when we combine these 4 together by either adding them or subtracting them, we connect them together and we make a polynomial. A good analogy I've heard before by a teacher I had was that a polynomial is like a train. What makes up a train? All the cars. The cars are the monomials. They're these little pieces. And when I take these 4 little pieces and connect those cars together, it makes a train. The whole thing is a train. These little pieces, or the monomials, or the cars, and when I connect them together, it makes the polynomial, which is the whole thing, which is the train. Okay? Poly, the prefix poly means many. Poly means many. So many monomials. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. That makes a polynomial. If we go back to monomial, the prefix mono means 1. Mono means 1. So that's why in a monomial, I just have one term. These are all just one terms. But when I take those terms and I put them all together in like something like this example, it makes a polynomial because it's many. Poly means many, so it's many terms. So this is an example of a polynomial. Now this polynomial has 4 terms. We'll talk about different types of polynomials in a second. Now something that's very important about polynomials is they must be in order by degree. Polynomials must always be in order by degree, from greatest on the left to smallest on the right. Greatest or largest degree should be on the left, smallest degree should be on the right. Largest degree on the left, smallest degree on the right. Just like we read a book from left to right, it should always go biggest to smallest. Okay, now as you can tell, in these notes I have this bolded, underlined, and 2 exclamation points, so it's very, very important. It's very important that your polynomials are always in order by degree. So this example that I gave you, is it in order by degree? Let's check. What's the degree of this term? Remember, the degree are the exponents of the variables. We just talked about that. So the degree of this monomial is 1. The degree of this monomial, 2 plus 1 is 3. The degree of this monomial, there are no variables, so remember it is 0. And this one is 1 and 1. Remember, there's invisible 1s there, and 1 and 1 make 2. So is it in order by degree, from biggest degree down to smallest degree? No, it's not. If it is not, your job is to put it in order. You must always put it in order by degree, and that's something we're going to work on today. So let's take this and put it in order by degree. So this monomial has the largest degree of 3, so it needs to go first. 9x to the second y. So basically, we've used that one. That's the largest one. So that's a degree of 3. The next largest is degree of 2. So that one needs to go next. So we're going to make that plus 3xy. So now I have left a degree of 1 and a degree of 0. Which one comes next? Remember, we're going from biggest down to smallest. So 4x is next. And negative 8 has a degree of 0. That needs to go in the back. That is what we call our constant. The constant is the one that doesn't have a variable. So negative 8 does not have a variable with it. It's called a constant. So let's check this. Is it in order by degree from biggest down to smallest? This degree is 3. This degree is 2. This degree is 1. This degree is 0. So this would be our answer. We must always make sure it is in order by degree from largest down to smallest. Okay, so let's practice that some more. I have this polynomial, negative 6x plus 9xy to the fourth plus 3xy minus 7. So we're going to put this in order by degree. So let's check it first. This degree is 1. This degree is, remember there's a 1 here, so 1 plus 4 is 5. This degree is 2. And this degree is 0. So it is in order. Is it in order by degree from biggest down to smallest? No, it's not. So we need to put the biggest degree, which would be 5 first. So 9xy to the fourth. That has to go first. Okay, well the next biggest degree I have is 2, so that needs to go next. Now I have a degree of 1 and a degree of 0 next, so the degree of 1 goes next. That's a negative 6, so it's minus 6x. And last I have 0, so degree of 0, we can check it. Degree of 5, remember 1 plus 4 is 5. Degree of 2, 1 and 1 make 2. Degree of 1, degree of 0. Always make sure it is in order by degree from biggest down to smallest. Left to right, largest to smallest. Okay, the last thing we have to talk about is a couple more vocab words. So these are called polynomials. Polynomials when you have many monomials. Now the two examples I've shown you have 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last one had the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. They will not always have 4 terms. Sometimes it may have 2 terms, 3 terms, 4 terms like these, 5, 6, 100 terms. It doesn't matter. Those are called polynomials because they have many terms. No matter if it's 2 terms or 100 terms, it's called a polynomial. Now we have certain names for certain types. If it is a binomial, it's called a binomial if it has 2 terms. So if the polynomial has 2 terms or 2 monomials, it's called a binomial. The prefix bi, bi means 2. So a binomial has 2 terms. So here's an example. 3x to the second plus 5x. It has 2 terms, so it's called a binomial. 1, 2. Here's another example of a binomial. 5x minus 8. It has 2 terms, 5x and negative 8. 2 terms. It's called a binomial. I'm going to use this word a lot throughout the rest of the chapter, so we need to understand what that means. When I say a binomial, it means it has 2 terms. Monomial has 1 term. Binomial has 2 terms. What about if it has 3 terms? Well, a 3-term polynomial is called a trinomial, right? The prefix tri, just like a triangle, means 3. So a trinomial means 3 terms. If it has 3 terms, it's called a trinomial. Here's an example. X to the second plus 5x minus 8. It has 3 terms. A polynomial with 3 terms is called a trinomial. 1, 2, 3. So a monomial has 1 term, a binomial has 2 terms, trinomial has 3 terms, and anything above that, if it has 4 terms or 5 terms or 6 terms, we just call it a polynomial. Polynomial is a general name for all the different types. And there is our first lesson on polynomials.